All right, who's guilty of this? I'm guilty of this. I did this for years. Who plants tomatoes next to their peppers? I've done it. I did it last year. I do it all the time. I'll often do it when I'm not thinking that I really shouldn't be doing it. What? Why can't I plant these next to each other? They're in the same plant type. They're both nightshades. Yes, they are, which would mean they could be perfect neighbors, right? Well, both of these are heavy feeders, so that can be a bit of a problem. They're going to be pulling from each other, but that's not why they don't make great neighbors. I mean, it's part of the problem. But the reason tomatoes and peppers are not good neighbors, the reason why you want to gap these out 4 or 6 feet, and I like to put plants like basil in between them, or some other varieties. I'll put some onions in between them, or some carrots, things like that. You know, so there's not like a big old dirt gap. But anyway, I like to keep them separate because they are part of the nightshade family, which means, sadly, they share the same pests and the same diseases. So if you end up with tomato end rot, guess what? You're going to end up with it potentially on your peppers, or vice versa. I actually had that perfectly happen this year. I had made a brand new garden bed, amended it to the best of my ability. And of course, until you start planting, it's kind of hard to guess what may be lacking. Guess what? Calcium was lacking. I ended up with end rot, and it was not on my tomatoes. It started on peppers. I immediately saw it on the peppers. We started amending, and I did have one tomato plant that was right next to that pepper plant that about a week later developed end rot. The same thing goes with pests or fungus or mildew. One gets it and it passes it to the next one. So the reason they don't make good neighbors is because if something happens, you're going to kill your entire crop, potentially. And I have done that. A few years ago, I lost an entire section of my garden because I'm still battling that old brain idea that things are planted in rows or in groups. That's just the way we grew up gardening. And what I have learned over the years is I need to plant in with these plants. I need to companion plant. I need to put things in there that help them grow and that prevent pests. And so as I'm getting better, I'm learning, gap them out. And a couple years ago, I didn't. I was in that headspace. I wanted a row of tomatoes, gosh darn it. And I had a row of tomatoes. I lost 90-some% of that row. I'm not joking. An entire row of tomatoes just gone. And it was devastating. And it literally started with disease in one spot, and it worked its way through. So even though I was culling plants, I was amending the soil, it literally just went right through my crop. So when you're planting your garden this year, try not to put these guys right next to each other. Try to gap them out. Do your best to do that. And while you're thinking about it, consider companion planting. What goes with what? All right, guys, there you go. There's your garden tip.